Good luck.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Sequence Break, a podcast that features conversations with speedrunners, developers, content creators, and everything in between. Thank you so much for being here. This is episode 64, and this is like a recap of 2021 and looking forward and kind of setting goals for 2022. I'm going to share how I go about goal setting and how I've learned some of this stuff, and maybe that'll help you out. Maybe it won't. I don't know. If you find this boring or whatever, go listen to one of the episodes that, might be of a little more interest to you. But I thought it'd be fun to kind of recap how the year went as far as gaming and stuff like that went, and then how I go about setting goals. Because I've actually listened through this podcast. There have been some really great speedrunners who have shared how if they do use goals and how they set goals for timing and things like that, maybe with their speedrunning or maybe just their gaming in general, or just maybe life. Maybe this stuff helps you out in life. I don't know. Gonna throw this out there and share with you and see how it goes. If you're watching the video, I'm apologizing for the scratch here in the center of my head. This is a little embarrassing to share, but I went to go open my car door, and I've been on break for a couple weeks. I've had a vacation for a couple weeks, enjoyed kind of in my winter break, and I opened the door right into my face. Why? I don't know, but so it was like great way to start 2021. No, it wasn't that bad, but there was just a fair amount of blood, and it's almost healed, but it's still in the process right now. So in case you're watching the video, maybe this time, maybe you just turn the video off and it might actually be a better experience. So you don't have to be distracted by the scratch. But anyway, that being that, 2021, there was so much that happened gaming and speedrunning, and so much that didn't happen that I think it's outside my scope to go ahead and share with what I think happened in gaming and stuff like that. So instead, I thought I would share the games that I played, some of the speedrunning that I did. And maybe you can think back on your 2021 in gaming as well. I actually really enjoy keeping a spreadsheet of like the games I've played or the games that I've completed. It's fun to just look back. I'm one of those people who saves, if I'm streaming any of gameplay for the first time, or if it's a PB or something like that, I save it the full stream. I don't edit it or anything like that. And occasionally it's nice to go back and check on some things, especially if I decided to start speedrunning a game. Maybe I did something that I wasn't quite sure of or that I can't quite remember. It's helpful to go look back for my own, purposes to go see what I did and all those kind of things. So I happen to keep this list. I keep my goals and my gaming kind of all on the same list. I've actually started making a list also of some of the games that I own. I didn't start out as a speedrunner to be a collector, but in the process of trying to own the carts that I speedrun and some other games like that, little did I know I've become a little bit of a collector. So I have a list for that now that I've added to this as well. So looking back on the games that I played in 2021, it really started off great, which ended up being maybe one of my games of the year, but it's been out for quite a while. There's a game called Sayonara Wild Hearts, and I ended up playing the Switch version. But the best way to describe it is it feels like you're playing a music video. The music and the game are synchronized, so it almost feels like you're playing a music video. And it's not a very challenging game, nor is it a very long game. It only took me about 2 hours to finish. But the music and the emotions that it creates are so effective that I was really moved by the whole experience. And I was fortunate enough to have somebody who's a member of the community recommend this game to me, which is, by the way, how I ended up playing a lot of games this year. And the soundtrack is one that I actually ended up listening to time and time again after I was done with the game, and still listen to it this day. It's just a really fun, if you've got a couple hours to waste and you want to throw the headphones on or play with a sound system that you're going to blast a bit, it's one of those games where you really just want the sound and the music and the colors and everything about it just to kind of wash over you. Let me highly recommend Sayonara Wild Hearts. I had a ton of fun playing it, and there's a tiny little speedrunning community around it. So if it was something that interested you that way, it's almost on rails. So some of the optimizations and things are pretty particular, but nonetheless, a great, wonderful casual playthrough that I may actually go through again at some point in 2022, because it's kind of, like I said, a shorter play, and it's really fun. Early on in the year, I was actually really enjoyed the competition of Mario 35. This was on Switch, where it's a Super Mario Brothers 1 battle royale, if you will, where you start with 35, you end with 1, and the only way I can describe it is bizarre. I'm not 100% sure why Nintendo did this, but it was a limited time release. So in 2021, we saw the end of it, and I didn't play a ton, but man, I did sink some time into this game, and I really enjoyed playing with friends and playing with others in our community and all those kind of things. And it was kind of sad to see the last day of it finally come to an end. But I did enjoy my time. I'd never unlocked all of the levels, interestingly enough, even though I got to say, I really enjoyed playing the game. And I know for a little bit in 2020, this game kind of caught our, the speedrunning retro community by storm. And then, as things tend to happen, it died out a little bit. But I got to say, it felt like it had some steam there towards the end of its life in the last month or so. So rip Mario 35. Will we ever see it again? I don't know. Wouldn't be surprised if members of the community try to carry on the torch, but as we know with Nintendo, you do so at your own risk, with unfortunate, actions that Nintendo has taken against games that they may or may not have in development at some point, right? So, but Mario 35, I gotta say that I enjoyed it quite a bit. One of the games that I probably spent the most amount of time with this year, but it's close, is Zelda 2 in all of its incarnations. I did do a quote-unquote casual playthrough of Zelda 2, but I played a number of Zelda 2 ROM hacks, and got to tell you, pretty much enjoyed all of them that I've played through this year. So it looks like I have a list, as I mentioned, on January 17th of this year, of 2021, excuse me. I ended up doing a full playthrough of Zelda 2, just the vanilla game. But then also hack-wise, I ended up playing the Resurrection of Ganon, which was quite a lot of fun. Really well done ROM hack that I highly recommend. Resurrection of Ganon is really good. Then I ended up playing Winter Solstice, which was the same developer, but this was the ROM hack that came before. And it's a really challenging game. As far as ROM hacks go, I don't know. Maybe it's the toughest one I've played as far as Zelda 2 goes. It was just really punishing ROM hack. But needless to say, it's Zelda 2. It's tough to say that I didn't enjoy it because it's got the controls and the mechanics and everything that goes along with Zelda 2. Another one I played was Zelda 2 Ahmeda's Curse, which was this was towards the end of the year, and got to say that I enjoyed that one a lot. That's a great ROM hack for those who are just getting into Zelda 2. Interestingly enough, if you've never played the vanilla version of Zelda 2, I would actually recommend Ahmeda's Curse. It tries to reduce some of the punishment that happens in Zelda 2. Getting hit back into pits, the constant, dying and peril that happens in even the vanilla game that makes it so challenging. It lives up to the hype of NES tough. So if you've never played the game, you might actually want to consider playing this one first, or if you're considering your first ROM hack, I think this is a really good one to give a playthrough as well. And I gotta say, even though I'm a little bit more seasoned in Zelda 2, I really enjoyed it. I'd say the reason that I probably went looking for the ROM hacks is that I wasn't quite prepared to sink the time into the speedrun. At some point, there's probably a good chance I'm going to speedrun Zelda 2. But at this point, I've really enjoyed just playing new worlds, new levels, new things that the community has done out there. And I'm probably going to continue doing that in 2022, just because it's a way I really have been enjoying the game. And it makes me actually, interestingly enough, I've wanted to go through and play the vanilla version once more, now that it's been about a year since the last time I did a complete playthrough of it. So we'll see if that actually happens, but definitely recommend the ROM hacks and the community if that's your jam. I know Zelda 2 isn't for everybody, but I got to tell you, it's still one of my favorite games, and I love every second of it. I love watching the speed runs. I love watching what the community comes up with next. I even dabbled just a bit, and I'll talk about this a little bit later with the development side of things, but I even dabbled a little bit with the editor, and pretty impressed with what the community have done. Considering of all the Zelda communities, Zelda 2 feels like one of the smaller ones. So the fact that there are some tools and some things going on within the community, pretty impressive, and got to say that I have definitely enjoyed playing all of those games. I also did a playthrough of the Legend of Zelda. Interestingly enough, I can't remember as a child if I actually ever ended up beating the game, going through level 9 and beating Ganon. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I think my final time, actually, and I can pull it up here, was probably in the 6-hour range, but oh no, okay, maybe it was less than that. Looks like it was about in the 4-hour range, almost 5 hours to beat the game. So, enjoyed the heck out of it. I can understand why there's such a vibrant community around it. It's a great game. One of my favorite games as a kid. I can say that it still holds up quite well and is fun to play through. Maybe I'll go through the second quest this year. Maybe that'll be a 2022. Try to see if I can beat the second quest of Zelda. I did it without looking at any guides and stuff. I just tried to do it off memory and things like that. The game, now, if you've played through any modern games, the game, I think you probably can navigate for yourself, but maybe not. I still feel like it's surprisingly open world, all things considered, even though it's, you need one item before you can go get the other item. The fact that you have the freedom to go over the overworld when you first start is pretty interesting, to say the least. 2021 marked the first time that I basically ever played a Pokemon game. And I know, what the hell's wrong with you? It's 2021. How is this your first Pokemon game? Well, what can I say? I didn't have Pokemon growing up as a kid. I'm not 100% sure why. And so I was looking back, and the first Pokemon came out somewhere in the 90s. And my guess is that by the time Pokemon became a thing, I was probably finding some other interest. I may have found PC games at that time. There was something happening in the world. And admittedly, all I ever owned was an NES and a Game Boy and a TurboGrafx 16 growing up. So Pokemon did it, the Game Boy. I mean, that's where, it gained life and it became a thing of its own. But for whatever reason, it skipped me. And so I really never got the bug, didn't watch the animes, didn't watch the actual shows or read the manga, or if there is manga. Is there manga around Pokemon? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But never played any games. Anyway, all that being said, I tried my first one, and it was Pokemon Crystal. And I had dabbled just a bit the year before, but I ended up playing the game all the way through. It took me something like 40 hours or whatever. I played it all on stream, and playing it with a community was a lot of fun. I got to be honest, that I'm not sure I would have had the same enjoyment had I not done it streaming. Now, admittedly, what does that mean? Well, in my case, it means that the stream, a lot of times, the chat tells me where to go, which is helpful, and how to beat things. The thing that I struggled with, and I'm not sure why still, so for some reason, Pokemon has still not captured my imagination. I'm not 100% sure why, but some of the things that, you have to do in battle there, where which types match up with each other and things like that, I've still struggled to understand. I've had charts in front of me, and I still struggle with reading the chart and what are the right plays and how does this work, and am I doing this right? I wish I could pinpoint or identify why some of those things aren't clicking with me. They just aren't. And so as much as I really enjoyed my Pokemon Crystal experience, when I moved on into Emerald, and I'm still, quote unquote, still playing through Emerald, I have not finished it. I did it the same way, did it on stream with the community, and it just hasn't captured my imagination the way that other games have. It's tough. It's tough to admit, because so many people out there really enjoy these games, and new Pokemon game comes out, the world stops and we all do it. It's kind of, I'm bummed about it. I'm bummed that the games haven't captured me the way that they have for many others. Will they ever? I'm going to keep trying. I'll keep trying games. I think it's unfair to say you dislike something until you've actually tried it. So there are numerous ones. I haven't played any modern. The last one I played was Pokemon Emerald, so Game Boy Advance version, Gen, what is that, 4, 5, somewhere in that range. So obviously multiple generations have come out since then. I do want to keep apprised of the community, because I think the things that have happened in Pokemon, RTA, tool-assisted, hacks, all of this amazing things are happening still in the community today. And in fact, one of the episodes I did in 2021 on the podcast was Ty Kevin 83. And if you want some really interesting things happening in Pokemon, do yourself a favor and listen to that episode. We take a deep dive, and I even did one on the GDQ show, and it's just been a lot of fun and interesting bits of whatever they come up with next to go follow. So, plenty of resources out there, and I definitely will be trying some Pokemon in 2022. We'll see how long I stick with it. I'm not 100% sure, because it hasn't caught me the same way it has for others. Played a fun, or I guess you would call it retro at this point, but point and click adventure game called Scratches. My community will probably be a little bit upset with me for still not finishing it to this day. Oh, sorry, but it's a really great point and click adventure game on the PC. I played the actual original version. Thank you, Alaskan Emily, for loaning me that CD to actually play. And I did struggle a bit with some of the logic that goes along with point and click adventure. Like, why would you have to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. But once again, thankfully, I was playing it on stream. So, hey, the chat comes through. It helps you out. So, I enjoyed my time that I had spent with it. Will I go back and finish it? Possibly. Not 100% sure yet if I will. A couple other games that I played on stream. Mario Golf Super Rush was a ton of fun. And I'm trying to think of some of the other games. I don't know what else I played on stream, but off of stream, I played quite a bit. And this is probably where I spent the majority of my gaming time into 2021. If I haven't mentioned yet, probably have like a ton of other times on other episodes. 2021, I ended up having to go back in person at my day job. And also I ended up getting a master's degree. And so as you can imagine, it didn't leave a ton of time for gaming, for streaming, for this podcast and everything like that. So I had to take advantage of the time that I had with the games that I had. So some games that I absolutely loved and want to spend more time with. Horizon Zero Dawn. I know that game came out a long time ago. In fact, the sequel is planned to be coming out in February of 2022. We'll see if that actually happens. But I spent a majority of the time, I still haven't finished the game, but the writing, the acting, the gameplay, everything about that game I played on PlayStation 4 are just home runs for me. It caught me in all the feels. I really appreciated the writing and the voice acting and the story that goes along with it. It's a little bit interesting because I played that game after I had finished, quote unquote, the main story of Breath of the Wild. And in Breath of the Wild, the overworld, you can go anywhere. There's nothing that's restricting you except the fog at the end of the world. Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't necessarily have that kind of freedom. So that was the one, I would say, maybe the one caveat or negative I would say about it, but it's not even a negative. I've always enjoyed linear stories, and I will always that's probably something that's just never going to go away from me. I love when the game gives me these stories that I let unfold and unravel and things like that. And Horizon Zero Dawn just does a masterful job of doing that. A game I did actually finish in 2021 was Jedi Fallen Order, and it's one of the first games that I've ever played in 4K. I've always had a 4K monitor for video editing and production and all those kind of things, but I've never actually done any gaming on it. And this year I got a new PC which could handle 4K gaming, and playing a game in 4K kind of just like changed my world. I realize I'm extremely privileged and super lucky and fortunate to have access to that. For me, a computer is a business expense because I do this, for a living and things like that. Needless to say, it was quite an experience. The game is super fun. It's Star Wars. You really can't go wrong. It's got a really decent story. The acting is pretty good. The writing is pretty good. All of it just really works together and made for a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Not sure if I'll return to it. Maybe to do some, I didn't get 100% the game. So maybe I'll return to it. Not 100% sure, but really enjoyed nonetheless. Another game I spent a ton of time with was Golf Story. I would say, maybe. I did a lot of gaming on the Switch this year, and that's because, when you're on the go, or for my case, because I spent a lot of time at home, like a lot of us did in 2021, and I want to spend time with my wife, and I want to live a life a little bit. So maybe we're out there watching a TV show that maybe I'm not that interested in, but the Switch is the perfect gaming console for, spending time with your spouse or your significant other. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but anywho, so that's why I ended up playing a lot of Golf Story. Really fun, casual golf game if that's your thing. And the other one that I recently just spent a bunch of time with is Tony Hawk 1 and 2, the remakes or the remasters, whatever they're calling them. If you haven't played these and you played any of the Tony Hawks like 1 through 4 growing up as a kid, the remakes are awesome. And they're really well done, got all the right things happening. I am going to go play it. I'm going to continue to play with all the skaters. I did my first playthrough with Tony Hawk, but I want to do my own. There's so many things, but man, it gets the feel of those original games so well done with some really interesting modern enhancements to it, such as just the way it looks, controls, loading times, all those type of things. And I got to say, on the Switch, it runs surprisingly well. I don't know if it's running at 60 frames, but it's running surprisingly well considering some of the, the things that you have to make adjustments for to have it run on the Switch. And in that vein, another game that's an older game, but that I spent a lot of time with was Valkyria Chronicles 4, and ended up completing that game. If you've ever played a Valkyria Chronicles, it's like, what do they call it? A real-time strategy game. And it's got this really silly over-the-top characters and stories, and so it's like it's fun, and it's people die in the game, like it can be really brutal at times, but nonetheless I really enjoy that type of game. And the thing I like about Valkyria Chronicles in general is that it requires some thought process, and so it's not always best to make a decision. You really want to think through and try to think logically, and obviously there's some luck involved as well, but it's got a real fun, you have to have some strategy and approach to the game to be successful in it. So I always enjoy them. I know they're not for everybody, but I had fun playing them nonetheless. Okay, speaking of retro and spending some time with some older games, I actually played through Arkham City this year. Haven't finished the game. I'm going to return to try and finish it, but I got a new laptop, and I was able to play that game on the new laptop, and so I've been able to play it out and about. And I know, but I loved Arkham Asylum. I think it's one of the better games like ever made. Arkham City is just as good, just as fun. And I did play a little bit of the new Spider-Man, not the Miles Morales one, the one right before it. And it's similar, great combat, great story, great acting, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of fun to play. Another game I spent a ton of time with this year, and this was off stream again, is Doom Eternal. And once again, having a PC that could actually play the game pretty well definitely helped. Probably why I didn't play it when it first came out. Love everything about the game. It's so ridiculous. It's so over the top. The one criticism I have of Doom Eternal is that there is a bit too much story. My preferred type of game is role playing, is story driven, is, all these kind of things, is narrative. And Doom Eternal actually has a bit much for me because the combat is so fun and all the different things you can do with the weapons and all that other kind of stuff. I actually felt like the story got in the way a couple times. But I ended up, I don't know if I've actually beaten it. I think I have one or two more levels. If I haven't beaten it, I'm very close. I've sunk 20 or 30 hours into it. So it's a really, if you like just, blast everything you can see, Doom Eternal is definitely the game for you. Which kind of led me to my last kind of like first-person shooterish game I played towards the end here, and Halo Infinite. And I haven't purchased the single-player campaign yet, but I have been playing the free-to-play, thank you, multiplayer, and I've been having a ton of fun with it. Now, I haven't played a Halo game since the first one. And my first experience with Halo was not on Xbox. I'd never owned an Xbox. It was the Macintosh version of Halo, the original. Loved it back then, played through it, I don't know, probably took about 30 hours or so. And I got to say, Halo Infinite reminds me of what I enjoyed about that first game. So I'm not like the fan base that has gone through apparently some less than stellar iterations of Halo. So I don't have that baggage to take with me. And I've really enjoyed my multiplayer. I still play a game or two here and there when I have some time, and I'm enjoying it. The free to play has been working great. At some point, I do want to go through the single player campaign. The reviews seem like they're pretty good about it. And being that I'm enjoying the gameplay, I figure like, it just makes sense. Throw a story in there with great gameplay. Can't go wrong. My type of game. Hey. Okay. And then some other games, guys, I feel like I've called out so many. Okay, here's the one that is a little tough for me, and that is Skyward Sword. It's one of the few games I picked up when it first came out, and I started a tweet thread that I was going to tweet my reactions to it, and I got about 2 hours in and haven't returned. I don't know what that says. That could, now, in all fairness, my fall was quite busy with work and school and all this other stuff. So it could be just a function of real life getting in the way. Recently, I have wanted to return and give it a try. But the thing that's been getting in the way is the game that I've been playing for the last 2 weeks, almost every day, and that is Red Dead Redemption 2. So go figure. As Zelda is my favorite game series of all time, without even like hesitation, I do want to put the time in and complete the story in Skyward Sword. Maybe that'll be my project for January. Who knows? Funny, as you get to be an adult, you got to make projects for your gaming. You got to schedule time for it. Damn it. Anywho, so whatever that says about Skyward Sword, I will say that these last 2 weeks playing Red Dead 2, that's what I've been playing over my winter break. Holy cow, what a game. I am enjoying every second of it. The visuals are amazing. I'm playing it on PC, so I do have it looks really nice, so that always helps out. But the music has been wonderful. The acting's great. The writing's great. Complicated characters. I appreciate that they're not glossing over things of this era. It's set in 1899, and I have done a lot of reading over this past year about this kind of turn of the century time period, and there's, like a lot of things here in the States, there's just some really awful history about how we treated each other back then, and I appreciate that even in just the short time I've been spending the game. I'm about 6 hours hours in, and that they're not glossing over that stuff. And I think that makes the game better. It's one of the few games where it's kind of paced slowly so far, and I've just enjoyed that they're pacing it this way. So I will probably have some more to say about it. Maybe even play it on stream a little bit. Who the heck knows? I don't know. And that takes me up through my casual game playthroughs, and all that kind of stuff for 2021. Speedrunning, another story. I'm looking over my speedruns and what I've submitted as far as PBs for 2021, and I have only submitted five. There were only 5 PBs I submitted for 2021. It's probably the least amount of speedrunning I've ever done since I started speedrunning in 2017. And obviously that is a function of speedrunning takes time. And the speedrun that I did get to do was mostly in preparation for charity events and things like that. And so I didn't get a chance to really grind out. I didn't grind out anything new. I didn't pick up any new speedrunning game in 2021. But at very least, I did put up PBs in Castlevania Rondo of Blood and Pac-Land. And very happy with what Rondo of Blood ended up being. It's I did a couple of deathless PBs, and my final one was really probably one of my best runs I've done of the game at 15 minutes, 50 seconds. Did a whole in-depth episode on Rondo of Blood, and there's a lot of tricks that have to go into the Maria-only category to make it a successful run, so happy I did. And my Pac-Land PB, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, ended up holding on as a first place run for right now, as of this recording in January of 2022, sorry, whatever year it is. Anywho, anybody, if you want, you can grind out a world record in Pac-Man. There's a few of us who have submitted. We're a small community, but needless to say, hey, might as well take the free world record while it's there, right? I shouldn't say free. There are other runners out there and stuff like that. But that actually leads to a kind of discussion I want to have, or I guess a little conversation I want to have about goal setting and setting speedrunning goals. And even if goals work for you, not everyone does. One of the great things about speedrunning is you can do it any way you want. Whatever method you want to use, whatever works for you, that's what you should do. I have formalized my goals at times where I'll set it out on my spreadsheet here, and I let the community link to it if they want to see how I do mine and how it works. It's pretty much a direct steal or rip off of what Lack Attack does. And if you've ever taken or watched Lack Attack stream, he is great with setting goals and then, working towards achieving those goals. And it's tough to sometimes quantify or identify what a goal for a game should be, especially for those of us that speedrun games that don't have a larger community attached especially for those that don't have a game that is associated with a larger community, because you're not sure what some of these realistic or reasonable goals should be. I feel like big minute markers help, at least when you're first starting a game. So I'd like to start speedrunning a game that I totally missed in my playthroughs. In fact, we should talk about that. Holy cow. And that is Return to Subcon. And right now there's the first, we just recently, towards the end of 2021, had a deathless run of the game. It hasn't been done yet. At least nobody's recorded it and submitted it. So there is a clear, what can be done in the game as of right now. It's a small community, but for me, especially with a game that's as challenging as Return to Subcon, I'm starting out with simple. Get a run under half an hour, however many deaths that takes. And then from there, I'll start adjusting my goals as I go along. Realistically, I'd love to join the community and be in the teens. If you look on the Return to Subcon leaderboard, all of the runs that have been submitted are all in the teens, 16, 17, 18 minutes, that range. That's where I'd love to be. And so I'm going to make that as one of my goals as well. I'm going to have multiple goals. So I have some can't think of the name. So you have some checkpoints that you hit as you're going along the way, or some milestones. That's the word I was looking for. You have some milestones as you're going along your speedrunning journey. And I think that's really a great way to make, set an ambitious goal, whatever that might be, but then have the checkpoints and the milestones along the way. So it doesn't feel like it's like you're just running up against the wall when you're not hitting those times. And that has worked for most of the speedruns that I do. There are a couple of them where I haven't really known what that is, specifically with the games that like nobody else runs. So that's like with Power Golf, or before anybody started running Pac-Man, I had no idea what would make sense in that game. So, but like it's helpful just to, even if you don't know, put them up there, throw some things out there, and hold yourself accountable. Like that's one of the things I think if you want to improve at a game, if you want to get better at a game, and you want to spend time with that game, you can do that. As for my goals going into 2022, the big one is return to SubCon. And before I get to that, I've actually wanted to return to some goals that I've had on my list for over 2 years now. Both of these goals are 2-year goals. And I would like to make these a priority for 2021. And the first one is Bonk's Revenge. And I probably talk about, the TurboGrafx-16 games way too much on this podcast. I apologize. You can skip forward a couple minutes if this bores you to tears. But I have never finished the game in under 24 minutes. It's the game that I first got a chance to join a charity marathon with. I ran it at Retrothon, and I got a chance to do it at GDQ and all these things. And there's been a lot of discoveries in the past year plus that has really grinded the game down, that if I just implemented a couple more strats, I could easily get the under 24. So what do I make that goal now that there's some new strats and stuff like that? Well, I want to go 23XX, I'm going to set that as the first one, but as I learn the strats and push myself a little bit, that may get taken down a little bit. It's tough because, I haven't grinded the game in such a long time that I'm not 100% sure what might be how much I want to grind for. But Lisa has the current world record with 21:55. So do I shoot for the sub 22? Like, do I make that? When John and I started running the game, I only had the world record a couple times from him. Anywho, he's at 22:47. So maybe like a 22:40 X-ish, somewhere around there is a more reasonable goal. Either way, that's almost 2 minutes off of that is actually 2 minutes off of what I have right now. So either way, I'm going to be holding myself accountable, and I want to make this a reality. So maybe, the sub 24, which I think it's got to be a sub 23 after that, is just to add on there. I'm just looking over it and I'm thinking out loud as I'm talking through this. I'm like, 2 minutes. Well, I think I got to go for it. I think it's time. And the other goal in that vein is for Bonk's Adventure. I think one of the rite of passages in Bonk's Adventure is the sub half an hour. And I never have done it. I've played the game quite a bit. I got a 30:05, and if I would have had a better drool fight, it could have been a sub 30 without any problem. It was a 30-minute, 5-second run. But DK28 is in third place and he's had his 29:50. I don't think DK runs anymore, but I'll occasionally see him online. And he has had that. His PB is there for 7 years. When we didn't have any runs on the board. DK28 was the only other person. I think maybe Infinite Mystery might have had a run. Maybe not. I don't see him on. Yeah, okay. I don't see him on the leaderboard, so maybe he didn't. Either way, DK has been the one and only on that leaderboard for, maybe it was Bonk 3 I'm thinking about for Infinite Mystery. But he's been the one and only on that leaderboard for such a long time before John jumped in, myself, Princess Za had the world record for a while. I mean, there have just been some really fun and interesting things that have happened in Bonk's Adventure. So I'm going to make that a goal for 2022. Interestingly enough, that's kind of what I'm going to set. I'd like to leave it open because I'm so far I'm playing through Super Castlevania 4 and I'm enjoying that. Maybe that'll be a speedrun. I don't know. But I think it's important to kind of leave it a bit open-ended because I think 3 good, strong goals are a good place to start. And then you can, maybe as I discover things or as I play through some other things and things like that, I may adjust, change it up. We'll see how it goes. I'm not 100% sure. There are some games I would like to play casually, and I think this is also a fun thing too. I'm not sure if it's just my observations, but I've really appreciated what I've seen over the last couple of years in speedrunning. People who, at least on their streams, have primarily focused on speedrunning, is that they've tried some other things during these last couple of years. And I think we saw that again in 2021. And so in that vein, there are just so many games that I'm enjoying playing casual. There's so many I still need to get to, but some of the ones I'm making a priority are the Mass Effect series. I have started Mass Effect 1 maybe 3 different times, and the remastered version is wonderful. It looks great. It feels really good. And I would like to at least get through one Mass Effect game. I'd love to get through the first 3 if I could this year, but at very least I am making a commitment to finish one. Another game I would like to play, and this is an old one, is Metal Gear Solid. And I'm going to be playing through the Twin Snakes version on the GameCube. I've been told that's like your best version, but it's kind of one of those staples, greatest games ever that I still just haven't played through. So I like to add that to the list. And another game that I'm I just started, but I might actually stream some of this, is a game called, no, I'm sorry, I haven't played through this one at all. This is a game that was recommended to me, actually, interestingly enough, by some students and also by many people on my stream, called Gone Home. You may have played it yourself, but that's another game that I'm going to play this year. I guess one of the last things I'd like to chat about a little bit, and that is development. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know we've had developers on, coders on, all these different types of people who do different things in the development space. A lot of times it revolves around retro and hacking and all that kind of stuff for our community. But there's also, there've been some developers on who do stuff that's outside of retro altogether, or speedrunning or anything like that. And I have spent a fair amount of time playing with Unity this year, and I've been working on you wouldn't believe me, a Super Mario Maker 2 level forever that I don't know if will ever see the light of day. And I have really enjoyed trying to design something. I come from the side of things, think about more game art style things, where I am very comfortable designing and creating things that, in Illustrator, After Effects, and creating stuff in that, like content as I call it, but assets for video games, stuff like that. My coding experience is zero. Maybe now I've had just a tad because if you've ever used Unity, you do have to do some scripting and things like that to make the things work. And so I've learned a little bit on how to do that. But my respect, if I didn't already have, through the roof respect for those that develop and code and all those kind of things to begin with, my level has been raised by trying some of these things on my own. My goal is to actually have something playable by the end of 2022. It was going to be for 2021. And then I decided to, finish educational stuff, whatever, stupid real life stuff. But I've had some really great help from a friend named Dogveloper, who has helped me with an idea I have for a game. And he's done all this work, and I've done basically nothing on it, except for I have learned to use some of these tools. And I would like to, at some point, have something see the light of day in 2022, whether it's just for me and the 4 people I know, or whether it's something for the greater public out there. I don't know, but committing to something and trying to finish something. I've been told by many a developer that basically one of the most challenging things is shipping something. And I feel that, spending that time and dedicating that time is something that's important. It has a lot of similarities with speedrunning, dedicating yourself to it. But it's using a different side of the brain. With speedrunning I just, shoot, try, repeat, try, shoot, repeat, whatever it is that you're doing. And developing, it has a similar approach, at least that I need to take. But on the flip side of that, you have to be creative, and I love being creative. I haven't had to do it in this context before. It's always been in the context of content creation or art creation or effects. I've worked a lot, I've done a lot of gigs for After Effects and things like that. So it's a really good challenge, and I am hoping that I can rise to the occasion, but it is definitely a challenge for right now. So goal for 2022, ship something, have something that's playable, even if it's a level, just have something that's playable. And I think with that, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. And once again, hey, 2021 is in the books. Let's try to make 2022 a little bit better. I know many of us out there are still facing challenges, and many of us sometimes are burdened by the challenges that we face as people and as humanity. Let's try to make 2022 better. I know that some of these things sometimes seem insurmountable, but I think with, if the more that we keep aware and the more that we stick to things, the better we can make this together. Remember, things only change if we make it happen. I know that's a little bit out there, especially with all this gaming and stuff. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we got to stay positive and try to, do our best to work our asses off to make 2022 a little bit better than 2021. That being said, thanks all for, supporting this podcast, even through some lean months where there was very little content coming out. But I appreciate you sticking with it. I know I say it a lot, and I really do thank those that listen and watch and support this. It's really, I love doing this. I already have some guests lined up for the beginning of the year here. So the podcast is going to be full effect. I hope I have a little bit more time for it now with real life. And I appreciate that all of you have made it possible and that are actually listening and watching. So thank you. I hope your 22 goes well. And if that's your thing, set some goals. Set some goals for 2022 and maybe get a chance to dive into them and dig into them a little bit this year. Let's I don't know. How do I wrap this thing up? I'm just going to say, have a good 2022. Let's kick some ass. Adios. Bye-bye. I'll see you later.